Hey YouTube, what's up? It's me again, Problem Solver 88 here with another educational video for you guys. In this video, I'll be explaining to the people who do not know and don't understand how to properly and correctly install a game that they've either bought or downloaded for the PC. Now before I begin, I want to strongly state that I do not condone piracy. Please buy the games and support the company. So again, don't pirate. Okay, that being said, the reason I'm making this video is because there are entirely way too many people who either do not understand or can't figure out why they either can't install the game or they install the game and then winding up running into all these odd problems the game normally doesn't have, such as it crashes constantly or you get a BSOD, which is a blue screen of death, and all that other such nonsense. So to do that, I'm going to bring you guys back to the beginning of 2008 and explain something that all games have in common from that point till now and possibly in the future. Stuff that the recommended and minimal specs either on the website or the back of the box don't tell you. So just ignore the backs of the boxes for now and follow this guideline. For starters, your PC should have these specs in it, and I will give you my specs as a guideline to go by. Okay, my computer specs are these: an AMD Athlon 64x2 dual core processor, 5600 plus. It has 2.8 gigahertz and 3 gigs of RAM. Okay, so again, that's an AMD Athlon 64x2 dual core processor, 5600 plus, with 2.8 gigahertz and 3 gigs of RAM. Okay, so most games from 2008 on require you to have a dual core at least, and you need a decent dual core. Okay. The next thing I'm going to get into is the graphics card. Okay. Your computer should have the following: a graphics card that has its own power supply, and I'll explain why that is in a minute. A graphics card that has at least GDDR3 in it, can support a pixel shader of at least 3.0 or higher, and has at least 512 megabytes of RAM. Your computer also needs to be able to fit the card inside the computer. And I don't mean just like make it fit in the slot. Some of these graphics cards are at least 7 inches long by 4 inches high or tall. So you need a base shell that can actually fit these cards in there, not just in the slot, but actually fit it inside the case too. That's another thing that they don't tell you. Alright, now, another thing when you're doing your graphics card, and the reason you want it to have its own power supply, is because when you plug a graphics card in, your CPU is already doing enough work to begin with, which is your central processing unit. Okay? Your CPU is drawing power from running the operating system you have. If you're playing a game, it's playing a game and running stuff in the background and so forth, because your processor is only processing the information that's going through there. Your CPU is what's really doing the work. Now, if you plug a graphics card in that doesn't have its own power supply, now you're adding even more work to the CPU, and it can cause your games to screw up. What you want is a graphics card that has its own power supply, so you're drawing the power away from the CPU, so the CPU gets less strain, can work on stuff, and the graphics card can do its work. So now you basically have two, decent. The way to look at it, basics in layman's terms, is now you're putting two power supplies in your computer that are helping each other and taking the strain off each other. Now, another crucial thing that I found out the hard way with my graphics card is that my graphics card has its own power source, but my original stocked power box in my computer, which is the back of the computer where you plug the plug in and then plug it into the wall, then everything plugs into the motherboard, my power box actually didn't have a plug for my graphics card. So what I actually had to do was I had to get a new power box. Now when you do that, you need to not only make sure the power box fits in the computer, not only has the plug that goes to the graphics card, but also has a higher wattage than the original power box in the computer, because now your graphics card needs to be able to work. The power box needs to be able to supply the graphics card as well. Alright, so that's your basic outline of your computer. Now, the graphics card that's the most conventional conventional and seems to be the staple now is an NVIDIA GeForce 9800 GTX Plus. And that card, even on Newegg, will range you anywhere, depending on where you get it, from $110 to $140. It may seem like a lot, but trust me, I can play GTA 4 on my computer at my current screen resolution, 1440 by 900, at medium to medium high settings flawlessly. Now, let's talk about game performance and tweaking. Do not overclock your computer. That is the dumbest thing I've ever heard anybody do. People think that overclocking your computer, you can turn a dual-core into either a tri-core processor or equate it to a quad-core, and that is a myth. The only way you can actually get your processing power to become a tri or quad-core processor is to have a tri-core or a quad-core processor. The only thing overclocking your computer does is make your processor in your computer work faster, which why it overheats, and 90% of the time, if you do that, you're going to overheat your computer unless you can keep the damn thing cooled. So in the end, do not overclock your computer. Get a better graphics card that has its own power supply, and then that way you'll be fine. Okay? Now, performance tweaks. Your screen resolution. People think that if you have a higher screen refresh rate, that it's going to work right. That is a myth too. My screen rate, which is 1440, my screen resolution, which is 1440 by 900, uses 60 hertz. It does not use 75. With that screen resolution, you have to go with a lower hertz. So that's the screen refresh rate. When you're in the game, unless you have a quad core with a sick graphics card, shut off the shadows, lower the view distance, shut off fog, shut off VSync. There's no need to have shadows on. Shut off anti-stalling. Those are just some of the performance tweaks, and run the game at whatever screen resolution your computer has. Alright, now, another mistake people do after they install the damn game is that they don't install the excess video drivers that go with that game that are inside the game disk. Okay? This file is called a vcrdistribute_x86.exe. Okay? Every game from 2008, probably before 2008, until now, has this file in it. It's basically DirectX. It's DirectX. It doesn't matter whether your computer has DirectX on it or not. These files are specific video drivers that are for the games that you have. Okay? You have to install those if you want your game to run right, because again, they're specific video drivers for DirectX 9 that go with the game. Another one that people don't understand is that, again, you open up the disk image, you can actually find the physics drivers for that game too, because I can have physics installed on my computer. If I don't have the specific physics drivers installed on my computer for that game will not run right. So that's another thing. Another thing people have a habit of doing is trying to run DirectX 10 on XP, which cannot be done. I don't care what anybody says. DirectX 10 can only be truly run on Vista. So stop trying to run DirectX 10 on XP because you can't do it. There are things that XP cannot run that Vista does. Stop trying to use DirectX 9 on Vista. Vista is DirectX 10. End of story. Run it at DirectX 10. That's what it's built for. So again, after you install a game, make sure you go into the disk image by going into My Computer, right-clicking on the disk image or wherever it is on the drive, using the Open or Explore feature, and find those files and install those video drivers. And the last crucial thing that people do not do after they install a game is they do not reboot their computer. If you install a game, reboot your computer after you've gotten everything installed and all the excess video drivers. Reboot your computer. That should do it. Any questions, post in the comment section. If you see anybody having any questions about this, please direct them to this video. Have a good night.